Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a story time of sorts. I'm going to be sharing with you guys my experience with having acne, and I thought that it would be best to do this video with no makeup on. So for those of you that are still struggling with acne and stuff and struggling with what it looks like to have it, completely get your concerns because I've had all of those same thoughts, and I'm going to share with you guys the process of how I've learned to love myself despite that it might not be everybody's idea of beautiful. I think it's important to always love yourself even if you don't absolutely adore every part of yourself. And what I mean by that is if you think that you would be healthier if you lost a little bit of weight, or if you got rid of your acne because it's caused by something like a poor diet, like mine has been caused by my whole life. Those kinds of things are different. Those changes in yourself are not like your best self. Obviously, if those are coming from a poor diet, poor nutrition, lack of sleep and stuff, I would understand why you're not super attached to those aspects of yourself. And I understand wanting to change and be the best version of yourself. And in no way am I promoting that you should hate your body, because I do think you should love yourself. That is the only way to heal from any emotional damage. You know, your emotions have a really big effect on how you perceive your looks, and how that's really helped me in my healing journey with my acne. So I am gonna start from the very beginning and share with you guys what kind of I went through. I think I was 12 when I started noticing some pimples on my forehead and on my chin, and I noticed it because someone told me like, oh, you're just the queen of zits, aren't you? It's so funny like how we perceive things, because I don't even remember who said it, who they were to me. I just remember it was someone at school, but all I remember was the negative words they said and the fact that it was my face that was causing them to say something like that. I didn't really get it at the time. I was always pretty confident, honestly, with how my face looked. And then, you know, that happened. And I just remember going in like through middle school, I started breaking out a lot on my chest. Like I get it, like right now I'm healing from it, but it used to be just so bad. But there's a lot of just like scars and discoloration. And I understand that people with acne, you know, a lot of times the acne heals up, but the scars are there forever. I wish I could tell my 12-year-old self, I wish I understood, but that's the beauty of growing up, is that, you know, you realize like, okay, you're gonna have these scars forever. You are gonna have to be okay with this. Like, kind of didn't really realize the severity of it until I was in 7th grade and I transferred from a like private school to a public school, and it was just insane how many boys and girls alike would pick on me for it, and they would pick on me for other things too. I was severely bullied. That's gonna be a story for a different day, but I was really bullied because of my looks, and acne being like one of the main things that people would, you know, kind of target about me. And it wasn't cool. You know, it sucked. It really sucked having people tell you like, oh, why don't you just wash your face? And it's like, okay, if it was that easy, then no one would have acne, because I obviously wash my face. Like, don't you think if somebody's making fun of you and telling you to wash your face, don't you think that you would do that? Like, of course I did that. So it was just really hard to deal with comments like that. It was also hard to deal with people like saying things about me, and I could tell by their body language that they were talking about me right in front of me, and like people looking at me like I was disgusting. Like that's the worst, honestly, the worst feeling. And I felt that way for quite a bit, and my acne honestly didn't even get that bad until my sophomore year of high school. And I was so lucky because I had a distraction. The first couple months of my sophomore year of high school, my acne just like blew up. It was so bad, and I remember going to different doctors, and I only started doing that because I liked a guy at school. I was so hung up on like, he's not gonna like me because of my acne, and he ended up being my boyfriend for 4 years, and like he told me my acne, you know, didn't matter, and it, you know, it didn't bother him or anything. Honestly, if I didn't have that, I would have been so much worse. If he would have like rejected me, if, you know, it could have gone so much worse. And I'm so thankful that, you know, it really ended up working out. I mean, the relationship didn't work out, but like it ended up working out that like I didn't think about my acne all the time. The only time I ever did was when I had to take my makeup off. And then, you know, that relationship ended, high school ended. My acne got bad again during college, like freshman, sophomore year of college. It was just so bad, so bad. I didn't realize until like way later that I had really bad depression. But yeah, I mean, like that, just like the stress of everything that was going on with my life was just like feeding the acne. And I also like, I had never had the best diet. Like I ate a lot of dairy, I ate a lot of meat, I ate a lot of processed foods, refined sugar, oil, salt, stuff like that. Like stuff that I really like, I don't eat much of anymore. My sophomore year of college, when my boyfriend and I broke up, I started to like one of the guys that I went on a date with, and like we tried to go out for a couple months, and it wasn't working, but he always seemed to bring up my acne. It was really, really hard. And it was something that like I was very, very embarrassed about. And like, I like also really, really cared for this guy. So like, I'm like getting emotional, but like it hurt to have somebody that I cared about that much to bring up my acne and say like, oh, you know, like I have something that'll help you, but like, you know, don't get offended. And I'm thinking like, oh, what are you talking about? And then it was about my acne. In my mind, I understand like people that don't have acne or don't have a specific problem and they feel like they can go talk to somebody and say like, hey, I know of this and it really works. I understand where they're coming from. And that's where like being an understanding and compassionate person is really going to help you in your healing journey. You have to understand people and where they're coming from, because at the time all I could feel was hurt. Now I find it in my heart to be like, okay, you know, he was really trying to help me, but at the time I was just like, no. I'm trying not to be specific because I don't want someone to stumble across this video and be like, oh, Christina made me out to be such a jerk, because like I don't think anybody's really like a jerk in this situation. It was just like you're very young and like you didn't like, people didn't realize the effect that it had on me. Like, but this guy that I'm trying to date, like in the future, like 4 years later, is telling me like, oh, this guy said something about your acne when you know, were wearing your tank top after PE class. And I was just kind of like, the heck? Like, I never talked to this guy. I've never, you know, and then he said like, oh, you know, like how could she have a boyfriend when she looks like that? And that really bothered me. And it was just like the fact that like this guy that I was trying to date was like discussing it with this guy and wasn't saying anything, because in high school I was being bullied, caused me to stick up for people all the time. And like I was very vocal about like if somebody was doing something wrong, I really stuck up for people. It's not that hard. It doesn't cost anything to be nice. And I understand the pressure of wanting to fit in with your friends and stuff, but I never ever got any pleasure out of putting somebody else down. The last part of my acne that is like a little bit hard to talk about was one of my friends in high school kind of like said something horrible to me about it. And I remember he said it in sophomore year, and like that's when I was like really like self-conscious about it before I started dating you know, that guy that I was dating for 4 years. But I kind of let it go. He said a joke in front of everybody, and then my best friend, you know, kind of went along with it and was like, oh, you should see her without makeup. It was honestly pretty hard to hear that coming from my best friend, and that's what really hurt me. But the part after, like, kind of just solidifies that people are just always going to be how they're going to be, because this guy, I remember senior year, 2 years later, I hadn't talked to the guy because I was so mad. And then one day he was singing, and like, was totally wrong on my part. The one thing I'm not proud of was that when he was practicing his solo, like to audition, I told him that nobody wanted to hear him sing. And he wasn't even a bad singer. Like, honestly, it wasn't even that. It was just, I knew that this was something that was important to him, and I heard him back. And like, that was 2 years later, and I still hadn't gotten over it. Like, I held a grudge, and you know, it's something that I'm not proud of, but like, it was good because number one, it caused us to talk, and we really like hashed it out. And I ended up forgiving him. We ended up being friends. He forgave me for what I said, but he was like, man, that was so fucked up. Like, that was messed up, Christina. You shouldn't have said that. And then we're in a play together, and then he comes backstage and he tells me, like, I know you're really sensitive to this and all, but like, you really shouldn't put makeup on like that if it's just gonna clog your pores, you know, it's not gonna make your acne any better. And I looked him in the eye and I told him, I was like, you know what? Makeup is what I love to do. Why am I gonna let somebody dictate what I can and can't do just because they don't like how my face looks? Because I think my face looks great, and I really loved makeup at the time. Find that confidence in yourself. Honestly, high school was so much better when I silenced all those distractions, and when I stood up and told people, like, you know what, I'm happy right now, and you're really trying to make me not happy, and I don't want to go back to when I was unhappy. So even though I'm telling you guys, you know, certain people said certain things in high school, I also did say that I was happy in high school. Like, after that, like, sophomore year, like, I was very confident, and people said things to me, you know, throughout the years, and I was like, I was fine with it. You know, it only really bothered me when that guy I was dating said something about it. And I realized that the guy that I was dating before accepted me because of it, or accepted me for what I look like. So I really learned what I want and what I don't want in a guy, and honestly, I learned a lot about myself. If you guys ever like have any questions about like acne, or like, there's a lot of other things that I've been bullied for, a lot, and like a lot of other story time videos that I'm gonna share with you guys of like guys and girls like making fun of me, putting me down, belittling me, and like how I rose above it. And honestly, it's still a journey, because I'll still look in the mirror and like see things about myself and see it through other people's lens, but you have to think like, you know what, this is my body, and I'm gonna make good decisions for my body because I love it. That's why, even though I'm vegan right now, even though I work out and stuff right now, even though, you know, stress plays a big part of it, I still get acne from like hormonal reasons, and my body's still healing from putting it through 22 years of having a shit diet and having, you know, almost like no fitness, no workout routine really. And that's where I really want to focus to you guys. If you guys are like, if you ever want to make a positive change, don't let people tell you that you have to love your flaws exactly how they are. And what I mean by that is, like, if you have a lot of acne and you know you're not eating well, and you know you're not sleeping well, and you know you're like addicted to stress, you're like a workaholic, you gotta make changes in your life, because the acne is like your body trying to tell you, hey, you're doing something wrong. I think you have to find that balance between body positivity and really looking at what your body is trying to tell you. But I just want someone to find help in this video, to find comfort in knowing that there's somebody out there that went through the same thing as you. And that's how I dealt with it. And I'm honestly a lot better now. And I couldn't be happier, honestly, with my progress. And it's gonna be a lifelong journey. Like, those things that you've been told since you were little, they never go away. But you have to choose every single day to believe in what you tell yourself, and to believe that, you know, that love comes from inside of your heart, so that you could spread to other people. And if you don't love yourself, then, you know, the world is missing out on that love that you could be sharing with other people.